guess I'm gonna go back a little bit to the teachers, Miss Nara and Mr. Gandhi. Maybe let's start with Miss Nara. What are the challenges that you actually face from the students that you're teaching, or maybe what do you see from the students themselves when they're, because we are the institution center, right? We are the one that helps the students outside the school. So there
Yeah.
must be like some kind of messages that probably the students deliver to the teachers when they are not in the school.
Yeah, actually, some parts of my lesson are, let's say, there are like, we give time for the students to express themselves, especially if they are very emotional about their day and like that. And based from those, I have learned also the things that the students generally feel about, especially now in Zoom class, when I ask them. For the student part, I think the difficulty about Zoom or online classes, first and foremost, they told me about focus. Yeah,
Mm,
that definitely changed. So their focus and ability to absorb the information, some of them had difficulty with that.
mhm.
Okay. And then when I asked them, based from your experience, from the different teachers that you meet every day, what helped you to focus? I'm asking their point of view.
Mhm.
I'm not sure. The students here, is this also how you feel? They said that teachers who give more engaging, giving chance to students to participate too in class, they find that helpful to make them more focused compared to teachers who just will give lectures straight, information overload. Compared to those, they prefer the class to be more interactive. That's the term that they use. There should be more student participation. And another thing, they told me that if the teacher really requires them to take down notes, that help them focus because yeah, it won't distract them from doing any other things. They need to listen to the lesson, keep track. But for the teacher side, of course, it had been Mr. Gandhi, Mr. Anba, and all of the teachers, and also the parents. It really experienced difficulty in shifting because from we were not that prepared, right? It's like a short period of time. It was flipped upside down. The first thing for teachers, I guess, is rethinking the strategies in teaching because last year we were face to face and most of the strategies that I use or that teachers use in teaching is dependent on you being there physically, leading the students through certain things, showing them through experiments. So now, like what Mr. Anba said, the teachers should also adapt, like learn more, find more ways. So practically, what helped us, we use simulations, like we have lots of softwares online.
Mm,
So instead of performing the experiment physically, like what we do in HUT, since we have a laboratory there,
mhm,
we use simulations. So
mm.
it's also interactive because the students could click, change this, change that, increase this, increase that. So that's one way to solve it. And I've noticed in face to face, it's faster for the students to absorb the information. Now, like for what
Yes.
I've noticed, lessons take longer, how they absorb the
Longer process, probably.
longer process. And they're more hesitant to ask for help
Oh.
online. That's what I noticed. So I'm encouraging the kids to also give feedbacks to the teacher when we ask them about how they learn or yeah, like that. Because one thing I've noticed, they're more hesitant to ask help
Why do you
if
think
online.
that is? Is
There
that?
is a certain level of comfort if you're with your friends, right? You feel much at ease, like hey, not hey, miss, excuse me, like that, like you are more comfortable when you with your friends. But now, due to the physical distance, maybe I'm not sure, they're much shyer about expressing themselves, like
Yeah.
excuse me, miss, I did not understand what you said, or like that.
Mm.
So that also poses a great challenge for our day-to-day teaching. So basically, more engaging lesson and more open communication and more interaction with the student. I think that helped them during this online class.
Thank you so much, Miss Nara. Okay, Sir Gandhi, what is your opinion about this? What are the problems that you face during your day-to-day teaching?
Yeah, the problem about online learning or what Miss Nara said, I agree also. When I teach example ya, Sec 1 or Sec 4, sometimes they ask that unpredictable gitu ya, about a subject because what Mr. Anbas said also I agree that they have knowledge accessibility ya, accessibility about many things. So this is a challenge when I approach in positive side to become more prepared for a teacher. So must have also many approach look like there is many theory about learning, but with this new normality, sometimes we must have a new approach, make solution gitu. Example about learning theory, about their behavior, what about their interaction between student with their teacher or their parent, or about connectivisms. We must also make a positive connection, but that's really different when online and offline. So I think this is a problem also. So I think examination is very important because this is measurable. Mr. Anba said, yeah, get A or get A plus and something like that. That's measurable. So we must make balance, not only measurable oriented, not only unmeasurable oriented, must be balanced. So in online learning, how to make balance between measurable outcome. Yeah, sir, tomorrow I will exam about this. Okay, and report about the result. This is measurable. And unmeasurable example about how to develop their imagination. How about critical thinking? I think using approachment, best approachments, and cognitive and humanism, I think teacher must be equipped theory also how to understand about this generation gitu.
I guess it's also the same with Miss Nara. In her case, like more interactions, how the teachers should adapt. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you
yeah,
very much, Mr. Gandhi.
yeah,
Okay, Mr.
welcome, Miss.
Nanda, a little bit concerned about this. I guess the problem now is not that we're only talking about the new generations, but also the new normal, which we actually talked about on our first webinar. But I want to ask about the new changes and the generation plus the changes of the new normal that we're actually studying online now. Has the school adapt to these changes? How the school adapt to let the children be able to absorb the lesson better, and about their difficulties in the social interactions, as Ms. Nara also mentioned earlier, that they are more hesitant now. Has maybe the school noticed about this and how they have adapt?
Most schools have adapted. I think to survive, most schools have to adapt. Anyway, for private schools, they definitely had to adapt. So one is definitely adaptability is of course the hardware, which is IT capabilities, computers, Wi-Fi, and all that, and of course the software upgrades and all that that needs to be done. And of course, how the strategies in online learning had to be also. If you look at the study from last year March to about June, those teachers who were not technological savvy, but they were good teachers, they probably struggled a bit to learn. Yeah. And of course, the younger teachers who were technologically savvy, they were very good. But then after that, after about 7-8 months, the teachers were good, and the senior teachers a bit who know how to pace a lesson or to make it interesting for the students. Once they learn and had a grip on the technology, they began to have good online lessons. And this is inclusive for children, young children from P1, P2, and even kindergarten. Some of the teachers were very effective in teaching for these students in this age group because, even though, as I said, they have access to digital equipment, whether they know how to do it, use it was a different story altogether. So these teachers became very creative. They created, for example, some of the advantages were that the reading program became better, more nuanced. So they were able to focus on smaller groups of students studying and reading and answering reading comprehension as well. So there was different ways of doing it. So both strategies were used. Not both. Many strategies were used in teaching these children. In fact, right now, I would say that many schools, if you ask the students who are between 15 to 17 years old, and if you do a survey, most students who are between 15 to 17 are saying they don't want to come back to school.
Oh,
Their parents want them to go to school, but the children themselves are very happy to stay in online to learn online,
Oh,
and
so
they only want to come back to school to have physical education lesson, to maybe collaborate, to have a basketball, football, or music classes and all that. So it's very interesting. This is an interesting development that is happening, because they say, if I can learn online, these are for majority of the students, but is it effective or not remains to be seen. Yeah. But these are the changes. So they adapt. So have schools adapted? Yes, they have adapted. Is it 100%? We are not sure. It's definitely not, because let us not forget about the social, emotional learning that
yeah,
goes. And
learning.
that is very important, especially for younger children. And that aspect of it cannot be replaced. But at the same time, we also need to know that younger children, the number of hours lost, like those in the kindergarten, P1, P2, if they lose the reading and numeracy and literacy sort of rigor, then I think the school has to have, most schools have a strategy for it. Well, let's say when next year, when let us say the school reopens in July in blended learning mode, most curriculum, most school leaders have to prepare for this, what you call social and emotional deficits, and also learning deficits, skills deficit. So they have to prepare for this. But at the same time, parents need to make sure that these young children are also learning something in reading, in
Yes.
numeracy. And so if they can get any help, then, whether it's online, whether it's multiple choice questions, reading programs, one important thing is that for this generation, talking about generation, this generation have now, because of online, because there's too much online screen, many parents are now making the children read books. That for me is an advantage,
That
because
is,
in the past 10, 12 years, reading books was not very popular among, the trend was going lower and lower. But you cannot deny that reading books is very, very important in intellectual development. Yeah. And so this is a one plus point for younger children that is happening.
okay.
That's for me. Sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Anba. Thank you so much. So before we proceed to a new question, there is actually a comment here on the chat box from Christian. True, currently you are transferring from learning in a broad sense into a deep learning mode, just like what Mr. Anba said earlier. The government is trying to less down the learning content, but the fact is that most parents are still eager to competing their kids with others, thus adding a lot more after school learning. So that means okay, from the school sides, we know that you are actually adding more deep learning, but given that there is pressure also from the parents, they are competing with the measurable scores, like Mr. Gandhi said, like from exams. What do you think that the students will face?
They face more pressure and stress.
Yeah,
It's as simple as that. Yeah, it's as simple as that. I mean, poor children. That is why I'm saying everybody blames that they are from a different generation. We forget about the children. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, we need to educate ourselves and learn what is important. I think sometimes take ownership of what the students want to learn, right? I think in one of the chatbot talked about Elon Musk school and all that. Now, look, I don't want to speak about Elon Musk or Steve Jobs or Microsoft. No, because I will say this: when I started education, everybody say Microsoft will take over education, and after a few years, they say Apple will take over education. Then after that, then now they're saying Elon Musk. I mean, everybody, it's like education is somebody is going to conquer, one person is going to conquer education. I don't believe in that theory. I think education has got its various roles. I think teachers will always be very important. Of course, technology, artificial intelligence will be there. How you use it, technology will be there. But you cannot, I think it will be less likely to be, you want to replace a teacher, it will be very difficult. But having said that, my main point is, I think in online learning, we have this ability to give children choices. And I think compared to formal learning or schools or adhering to a SOW or a scheme of work or a curriculum, right now, certain groups, you can give the choice to the students. So for example, if you are a school now, you as a teacher, I say, okay, guys, we've got this lesson, we've got different parts. you can research it and you can learn it. And then you can design a lesson now, because with more time available for different students at a different level and at their own pace. And you give the child the choice to do their own sort of work that is needed. Because if you're just focusing on exam, you won't be able to. But if you're focused on learning outcomes, then it is good. This also can be applied to primary 1, this reading series and all that sort of stuff. So you help the child perform. Now, parents need to understand, what do they want from their children? If they are just going to be going for examination scores and A stars and measurable indicators, then yeah, good luck to them. That's your choice. But is it? I mean, I'm not saying whether it is right or wrong. It is a choice. But if you want to put that pressure on your children, I'm not saying pressure should not be put, or stress is not. Stress is a good thing. Too much stress is the problem. Stress is an important thing. Human beings grow because of stress. Your muscle will not grow if you don't have stress. So stress itself is not a bad thing. Too much stress is a bad thing, right? And so I think what I would suggest is, online learning has given formal and informal educators an option to give children more choices. Very different from what Elon Musk is trying to say and all that. It gives you a bit more. So my view is, I don't like the whole idea of taking one big strategy and saying that is what works. One shoe size fits everybody. No, I think education is like a rainbow. It has different colors, and it has different ways of teaching different students, because every child is different. And so if you try to cater to the differences, and online learning has given us that opportunity. That is one feedback I get from all the teachers. Yes, it is more work. Yes, it is more tiring, but it is also more satisfying for the teachers, because now they realize, they know what their children have learned and not learned. Okay. In the past, you teach after 2 weeks, then you put a test, then you realize. I still remember, I'll give you a very good example. I'll make it quick. I had a student who always nod his head, and he always smile at me and nod his head when I'm teaching, and I feel so happy. And I feel so in awe. This guy understands whatever I'm saying, and he's a wonderful student. Then I get the first test and he failed, right? So what he looked at and how he nodded his head, he was basically tricking me. So I didn't know, after only 2 weeks, then I know that he has actually tricked me in making me feel good about myself and my teaching. So I felt good about myself, but he was learning nothing from me. Zero.
Still
so
relatable.
After 2 weeks, but now with technology, you can check immediately whether the guy, I think now teachers can do the immediate multiple choice questions, on the spot and all that sort of stuff. So you know at the end of the lesson who understand, who doesn't understand, who was the one who's nodding their head wrongly, and all that sort of stuff. You don't have to wait 2 weeks like when I was teaching 20 years ago to have a test and all that sort of stuff. So probably shows that I was not a very good teacher 20 years ago. So I need to get to be a better teacher. So this is a good example. So sorry, I made a bit long, but I hope that's the point.
Actually, Miss Susie also asked in the chat box, the exam-based schools are still important, relevant with the Generation Z and Alpha. I guess from what Mr. Anbay just said, exam is not everything for now. It's based on the learning process of the children.
Sorry, Janita, I just have to clarify. There's an important point why the reason why we have exams. We only have exams for one reason. Entrance into universities. That's one reason. And then jobs. And then a measurable standards for government to know who is competent and who is not competent. If we don't have jobs, if let's say we don't need jobs and all of us was given food 3 meals a day and we don't have to do anything and all that, I don't think exams will become important. But of course, that is a utopia world. So exams are only important primarily because it's an objective. It is important for entrance into universities. It's important for skills, because you cannot have a doctor. I give you an example. Of an education system. Argentina, they don't have standardized testing right until, so anybody who has finished 18 years old can enter university. So they don't have standardized testing. They're not like Singapore where they have the PSLE or IGCSE, Cambridge or whatever. So in Argentina, everybody can enter university if they have, the to the courses they want to. They have to do an entrance exam. So they don't have anything. So you enter the exam. After that, what they find out is when the people do the entrance exam, that's when they find out the standard of the student. So now this is a different system altogether. And then after that, when they do, they still need an exam, right? Even though they don't have standardized testing, they still need an entrance exam to enter university, to become a doctor, to become a lawyer and all that. Then many students who go for like other courses like economics, social sciences, the dropout rate from the university is very high. So 50% of them drop out as well. So you also cannot say, oh, you cannot have exams. You must have some standard, which Mr. Gandhi was alluding to, which is measurable. This is important for government. It is important for employers. It is important. If you want to build a bridge and you want to build a building that is safe, you better have exams. You have a heart problem, you make sure your cardiologist is certified.
Yeah.
So in the real society, exams are standards for measurements. But we have to have exams because of how society is structured. We cannot just say, oh, don't have exams. What I'm saying is, exam is one aspect of it, of learning, of knowledge, but not everything. Yeah. So, but it is an important part. It is an important part. If not, you will have no proper doctors, lawyers, people who build the bridges. So you need to have standards. Yeah. So that's my clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So before we proceed, I would like to clarify a bit about the Elon Musk that Mr. Anbar has been mentioning about before. So Elon Musk, for the participants here, maybe haven't know that Elon Musk is building a school, whereas there is no curriculum. As I understand, there is no curriculum, so the students will be able to choose whatever subject or whatever one thing that they are interested in. And this has been an argumentable topics or matter, because as Mr. Anbar said, we cannot actually go along like what Elon Musk said, because Elon Musk said that it is only important if the students enjoy their studying and they choose what they want, so the other aspects of curriculum does not really matter.